The movie begins in a peaceful Numidian village, where Hanno, also known as Lucius, and his loving wife Arishat enjoy a simple life on their small farm. Their peace is interrupted when the warning horn sounds through the valley. Sensing danger, Hanno and Arishat quickly put on their armor, ready to defend their land. Soon the threat becomes clear as Roman ships appear on the horizon. Commander Jugurtha gathers his troops, determined to drive the Romans away and protect Numidia. He reminds Hanno about a missed offering, but Hanno replies that the Romans themselves will be the sacrifice. Before the battle begins, Hanno shares a tender moment with Arishat. They exchange rings and promise to love each other forever, unsure of the future. As Roman ships led by General Acacius get closer to the shore, strong winds blow against their sails. Acacius orders his men to take down the sails and paddle to the land quickly. Meanwhile, Hanno urges his warriors to stand strong against the Romans. He tells them that Numidia, the last free city in Africa Nova, must not fall. He inspires them with a powerful speech, saying that death is not their fate and that together they are stronger. The battle starts with both sides firing weapons at each other, explosives from slings and arrows from archers. Despite their fierce resistance, General Acacius orders the Romans to raise a siege tower. Even though the Roman ships were badly damaged, they reach Numidia's walls. When the drawbridge gets stuck, Acacius forces it open, leading to a violent battle on the ground. In the confusion, Arishat is struck by an arrow. Distracted by her injury, Hanno is badly hurt and falls into the sea. As he floats unconscious, he dreams of Arishat being carried across a river by a shadowy figure, but he can't reach her no matter how hard he tries. When he wakes up on the shore, his heart breaks as he finds her lifeless body floating nearby. He takes the arrow that caused her death as a painful reminder of their love. Filled with grief and a desire for revenge, Hanno throws himself back into the fight. After the battle, the people of Numidia mourn their lost ones. Survivors cry as the Romans burn the bodies, calling their victory for the glory of Rome. General Acacius hides his guilt over the innocent lives lost, while Hanno and the remaining survivors are captured, enslaved, and robbed of their freedom. Numidia's fight is over, but Hanno's strong spirit stays alive, hinting at a future struggle for freedom. Their sadness turns into quiet determination amidst the ruins. On the ship heading to Rome, Hanno mourns his wife in silence. Nearby, he sees Yagra, weak and hurt, trying to stand. Even in his grief, Hanno helps him. Yagri, thankful for the help, recalls their first meeting. "I remember when I first saw you, a lonely boy from the desert, eager but scared," Yagera said in a weak voice. "I am sorry, my son." Over time, Hanno became a strong warrior, but Yagera, feeling his end was near, told him to stay strong. "Never let the Romans break your spirit, Lucius. Stay true to who you are no matter what." As a boy, Hanno ran into the desert chased by Romans for reasons he didn't understand. He barely escaped to Numidia, where he found safety and grew into the man he was. However, those he left behind suffered and died because of Rome. When the ship finally reached the port, the tired slaves looked at the mighty city of Rome. The huge buildings and busy streets were a sharp contrast to their sadness and humiliation. In the center of the city, General Acacius was met with loud cheers from the Roman people, who celebrated his victory over Numidia. He was warmly welcomed by the twin emperors Gada and Cacalla, who gave him a laurel crown and announced grand games in his honor. Though grateful, Acacius turned down the celebration, asking only for time to rest and be with his wife Lucilla. "Remember the honor we've given her," the emperors reminded him. But they insisted on the games, stressing the need for future victories, including campaigns in Persia and India, to grow Rome's power. On the edge of Antium, slaves were forced into an arena to fight wild baboons. The brutal event was meant to entertain and show potential buyers how strong the slaves were. Among the crowd, the stable master Macros watched eagerly for the bloody show. When the slaves were pushed into the arena, Yagera was too weak to stand straight. Hanno urgendolo a restare vicino e sussurrando parole di incoraggiamento. The wild baboons were let loose and all hell broke loose. Hanno fought hard, but Yagra, old and weak, was quickly overwhelmed. The baboons attacked him, violently killing him before Hanno could reach him. Hanno's cries of sorrow echoed through the arena, but his pain only made his resolve stronger. Hanno stepped forward, wrestling with one of the snarling baboons in a brutal fight. Using all his strength, he bit the baboon and choked it to death. His raw power caught the attention of Macros, the stable master, who saw potential in Hanno's strength and decided to buy him. Later that evening, General Acacius visited his wife Lucilla, thankful to the gods for his survival. She hugged him warmly. "Thank the gods for bringing you home safely," she said as they shared a quiet, loving moment together. The next day, the surviving gladiators were taken to the training grounds. From above, Macros watched as Vigo, the trainer, explained the rules and rewards of gladiatorial combat. Vigo promised that the best fighters might one day earn their freedom. Spotting Hanno among the recruits, Vigo jokingly called him Monkey Eater, making the crowd laugh. That evening, the gladiators sat together for their first meal. Hanno's new companions teased him with fake baboon sounds, filling the room with laughter. Despite their jokes, they seemed to get along well. Wanting to test his new fighter Macros, singled Hanno out and told him to stand. "Let's see if you're as good against a man as you were against a beast," he said, pairing Hanno with Vigo for a fight. The fight was quick. Hanno easily defeated Vigo. "Very good," Macros said, impressed by Hanno's skill and fiery spirit. "Choosing gladiators is an art," he added, "and I choose rage." But Hanno refused to fight willingly, his defiance clear. "Whose head do you want me to bring you?" he asked bitterly. Seeing the anger in Hanno's eyes, Macros made an offer. "Then tell me whose head you want, and I'll give it to you." Hanno's response was firm. "The heads of the Roman army or General Acacius." Macros, intrigued by Hanno's intensity, decided not to ask any more questions. Meanwhile, General Acacius spent a quiet moment with his wife Lucilla, sharing his growing frustration with Rome's cruelty. "What they did in Numidia, mothers mourning their children, it cannot go unpunished," he said, hoping the twin emperors' greed and cruelty would come to an end. With his army set to arrive in 10 days, the idea of rebellion was beginning to take root. A grand feast was being held with the emperors and Roman nobles. Music filled the air as Senator Thrax reunited with his old friend Murranus. Gladiators were paraded in front of the guests, and Hanno wondered what would happen next. Thrax announced a fight between his prized gladiator Vitek and Hanno. What started as a simple demonstration quickly became deadly when Emperor Caracalla demanded a fight to the death. The battle was intense with swords clashing, but Hanno's determination won out. He killed Vitek, earning the crowd's admiration, but Thrax's anger as he had lost his champion and a great deal of money. Emperor Gada, impressed by Hanno's skill, asked, "Where are you from?" Hanno refused to answer, but Macros stepped in. He only understands his native tongue. Hanno then told a poetic story, secretly mocking the emperors. Unaware of the insult, they laughed. "Poetry," one of them said. "How boring, but you surprised me. We'll see you fight again." Later, Macros gave Hanno money and asked, "Who taught you poetry?" Hanno explained that he had learned poetry from a Roman officer during his time in prison. When asked about where he was from, he avoided the question, saying, "The past doesn't matter." Instead, he asked about money, and Macros explained that a gladiator could buy his freedom if he earned enough. That night, Lucilla sought advice from the spirit of her late father, Marcus Aurelius. "Protect and guide us," she whispered before going to a secret meeting with the senators. At the meeting, Senator Graus nervously questioned the risk of their plan. Accius revealed that on the last day of the celebrations, his 5,000 soldiers in Antium would arrest the emperors for their crimes. Though skeptical, Thrax was intrigued, and Graus promised his loyalty to Lucilla. Thrax told her, "Lead and the senators will follow." As the gladiators entered Rome, they were struck by the city's contrasts, grand palaces towering over crowded streets filled with the homeless. Amid all this wealth and suffering, Hanno's journey was only just beginning. As they walked through Rome, the gladiators passed under a huge arch with a statue of the famous twins raised by a wolf. Hanno told his companions their story, warning them that the twins had caused chaos and disaster, a reminder of the twin emperors ruling Rome now. Just as he said, the city felt sick and troubled, with restless people and streets lined with the homeless. A feeling of despair hung over certain parts of the city. The story shifted to Senator Thrax and Macros. Thrax got into more trouble when Macros, annoyed by late payments, decided to double the wager. Meanwhile, Vigo led the gladiators into the arena's preparation room, lining them up. Hanno's attention was caught by a wall showing the names of victorious gladiators, but one name had been crossed out, which made him curious. Inside the Grand Colosseum, the crowd cheered in excitement. The announcer introduced the twin emperors Gada and Caracalla, along with the citizens of Rome, celebrating their empire's greatness. As part of the event, the Nidian barbarians were to fight as part of the celebration for General Acacius and Lucilla. Before the games began, the emperors asked General Acacius to speak. "I am a soldier," he began, trying to seem humble, "not a politician." Hidden in his words was a quiet criticism of the twin emperors' rule. They didn't notice, but Macros did. Soon after, the gladiators from Macros' stable walked into the arena, ready to fight in front of Rome's people. To make the event more exciting, a Roman soldier riding a giant rhinoceros entered the arena to take on the Nidian gladiators. The crowd cheered loudly while the emperors watched with amusement as the rhino charged, crushing one of the fighters. Hanno, channeling the spirit of the famous gladiator Maximus, quickly caught Lucilla's attention with his skill and determination. In a smart move, he directed the charging rhino into the arena's wall, forcing the Roman soldier to fight him directly. Lucilla, noticing how much Hanno resembled her late husband Maximus in both skill and presence, started to suspect that there was more to this mysterious gladiator. Though the soldier briefly got the better of Hanno, Lucilla stepped in and persuaded the emperors to show him mercy. However, to everyone's surprise, Hanno refused the mercy and quickly defeated the soldier. The crowd erupted in cheers for Hanno leaving the emperors, and everyone else stunned and fascinated by his defiance. After the games, Lucilla went back to her chambers, feeling uneasy. Hanno's movements and skills reminded her so much of Maximus that she began to realize something shocking. Hanno was actually Lucius, her long-lost son. Years ago, after Maximus's death, she had sent Lucius away as a child to keep him safe from the dangerous politics around the throne of Rome. Now he unknowingly stood before her as a gladiator and as the true heir to Rome. Meanwhile, Lucius met Ravi, the doctor treating his wounds. "I'm Ravi," he introduced himself. He told Lucius that he had once been a gladiator who earned his freedom and now worked as a healer. Their conversation was interrupted by Macros, who was excited about his champion's success. "Did you hear that crowd?" Macros said, thrilled by Lucius' growing fame. Later, Lucilla invited Macros to her home. He commented, "I feel like we've met before," remembering his time in her father's African campaign. During their talk, he said cryptically, "The best revenge is not becoming like those who hurt you." Lucilla realized that Macros was a powerful man with influence across empires and that he sponsored gladiators. Before leaving, Macros admired a statue of her father, Marcus Aurelius, acknowledging the lasting legacy he left behind. Macros then visited a trusted friend to learn more about Lucilla. He discovered that she once had a son named Lucius, who was believed to be dead. What Macros didn't know was that his champion, Hanno, was actually Lucius. That same night, Lucilla, who was under house arrest by the emperor because of her royal claims to the throne after her father Marcus Aurelius's death, escaped in disguise. With the help of Senator Gras, she secretly arranged to meet her son Lucius. "Do you know me?" she asked, filled with hope. Lucius, however, responds with anger and bitterness. He feels resentful for being sent away from Rome while his mother lived in luxury. His anger grows as he blames her new lover, General Acacius, for his wife's death. "I'm so sorry," Lucilla says, but her words don't reach him. Not understanding the sacrifices she made to protect him, Lucius angrily scolds her and storms off, leaving her heartbroken. When Lucilla returns home, she finds General Acacius waiting for her. Overcome with emotion, she tells him the truth that her son Lucius is alive. She begs him to protect him, even if it means sacrificing herself for the good of Rome. Her desperation convinces Acacius to change their plans. Back at the training grounds, the gladiators prepare for the next challenge, which involves rowing and navigating rough waters. Lucius, stubborn as always, ignores Vigo's instructions and is told to train alone. By the end of the tough day, he's exhausted and admits defeat. Ravi, the kind healer, tends to Lucius's injuries, using vinegar to clean his wounds. As the night goes on, Ravi becomes a friend to Lucius, telling him his story of survival as a former gladiator who earned his freedom. When Lucius asks why Ravi stays in Rome, Ravi explains, "It's for his family. I stay for my wife and children," he says. "I live as a Roman for their future." His words inspire Lucius, giving him new strength and determination. The next day, the gladiators board ships for a naval battle. The Colosseum has been turned into a flooded arena filled with dangerous waters and huge sharks. As the crowd cheers, Lucius inspires his team with a passionate speech about survival. Together, they use clever tactics and teamwork to defeat their opponents, earning the crowd's admiration. In the middle of the chaos, Lucius spots General Acacius in the crowd. In a fit of rage, he fires a crossbow that narrowly misses the emperors. Acacius quickly escapes the arena, with Lucilla avoiding suspicion. Even though the gladiators win, the celebrations are cut short when Vigo starts questioning them. He demands to know who tried to shoot the emperors. Lucius and his team cleverly avoid giving away their secrets, still savoring their hard-earned victory. Meanwhile, at Senator Thrax's house, a slave brings urgent news, which the senator shares with Macros, who shows up unexpectedly, still demanding payment for a debt. In a panic, Thrax reveals a shocking secret. General Acacius and Lucilla are planning to overthrow the emperors and rescue Lucius from the arena that night. Realizing how serious this is, Macros leaves quickly. Later that evening, General Acacius leads a rescue team into the arena wearing hooded cloaks. They don't know that Senator Thrax has betrayed them. They sneak into the arena, ready to carry out their daring mission. Meanwhile, Lucilla is called by the Emperor's hidden guards, who surprise and kill Acacius's men. Acacius is trapped and caught in the act. Both General Acacius and Lucilla are brought before the emperors, who express their disappointment. Even though they're scolded, Acacius laughs, showing no fear, and says he's tired of their cruelty. Angry at his defiance, Emperor Caracalla orders his immediate execution, but Emperor Gada steps in, saying that Acacius should be executed in front of everyone to set an example. Emperor Gada praises Macros for exposing the traitors, calling him a loyal ally. However, Macros suggests sparing Acacius and Lucilla from a cruel death and proposes that the gods decide their fate in the arena. In the arena, Robbie takes care of Lucius's wounds as they talk about Lucius's recurring dreams of a black river, a symbol of death. Lucius asks about a scratched-out name on the wall, and Robbie explains it belonged to Maximus, a legendary gladiator. Unaware that Maximus was Lucius's father, Robbie leads him to an underground shrine where gladiators who rebelled are honored. There, Maximus's sword and armor are kept. Lucius touches them, remembering his father and the legacy he left. The next day, Praetorian guards surround the arena expecting chaos during the games. Lucilla is moved to a seat and forced to watch as her husband is punished. The announcer declares General Acacius's trial, saying that the gods will decide his fate. Acacius enters the arena to face 4 Praetorian guards in a deadly duel. He quickly defeats them, impressing the crowd. Then Lucius is sent to fight Acacius, leaving Lucilla shocked as her son battles her husband. Though skilled, Acacius easily beats Lucius, who struggles to get close. Despite this, Acacius surrenders out of respect for Maximus, Lucius's father. However, the emperor orders Acacius's death. Lucius refuses to kill him, and archers immediately execute Acacius. Angry Lucius asks if this is how Rome treats its heroes. The emperor coldly says that the gods have decided, while the crowd protests and is held back by the guards. Macros tells the emperors to return to the palace for their safety. Later, Lucius has flashbacks of his late wife. When Macros finds him, he asks why Lucius didn't kill the general who caused his wife's death. Lucius answers that, as a gladiator, he makes his own choices. Macros insists that Rome's reality can't change, saying Lucius is his tool. Lucius rejects this and vows to stop Macros's rule. After Acacius's death, Rome falls into chaos, and the people demand justice against the emperors. Emperor Gada angrily blames his twin brother, Caracalla. Macros uses the situation, convincing Caracalla that Gada is trying to blame him and warns that his ally, Commander Darius, might not survive the crisis. Forced into a corner, Caracalla makes a drastic choice. As Emperor Gada watches the riots, Caracalla storms in and attacks him with a blade, cutting his hand. Gada pleads for him to stop, but Caracalla refuses. Macros arrives and supports Caracalla's decision to kill his brother, sealing Gada's fate. Elsewhere, Lucius reunites with his mother Lucilla. They make peace, and Lucilla gives Lucius her father's ring, which once belonged to Maximus. She tells him that Acacius had been gathering troops in Ostia under Commander Darius to overthrow the emperors. Lucius vows to save her, but Lucilla, happy to see her son again, assures him she is not afraid. Emperor Caracalla surprises everyone in the Senate by naming his pet monkey, Dardus, as his first consul. The senators, shocked, reluctantly give Dardus their support. Macros is named the second consul, and his plan to take control of the empire seems to be working. To celebrate, Macros announces games and executions. Later, Macros mocks Lucilla, reminding her of her father's dream for Rome, which he believes will never happen. Once a slave with a mark on his chest, Macros now controls the empire and vows to get rid of Lucilla and take the throne for himself. In the dungeon, Lucius gives Robbie a ring to take to General Darius in Ostia, declaring himself Lucius Verus, the true heir of Rome. Robbie, shocked but convinced, agrees and leaves the dungeon keys behind for Lucius. As the Colosseum is prepared for the games, Robbie rides to Ostia, tells General Darius what's going on, and gives him the ring. The army begins to march toward the city. Back in the arena, Lucius and the gladiators fight against impossible odds. Inspired by his father's legacy, Lucius wears Maximus's armor and uses his sword, rallying the gladiators in the crowd. Chaos breaks out as the gladiators rise, killing the Praetorian guards and demanding justice. Macros takes the chance to kill Caracalla and fatally wounds Lucilla. As riots erupt in the city, Macros tries to escape, but Lucius chases him. Outside Rome, the armies of Macros and Lucius face each other. To avoid more fighting, Lucius challenges Macros to a duel. After a brutal fight, Macros almost kills Lucius in a river. Hearing his mother's voice, Lucius finds the strength to defeat and kill Macros. Lucius reveals his true identity as the rightful heir and calls for the armies to unite and rebuild Rome for everyone. Later, he mourns his parents in the Colosseum, promising to honor their memory. The movie ends here. Make sure to subscribe our YouTube channel.